What up, people? Welcome to the Doing Everything Different podcast. I'm your host, Devin Lars. And today I want to talk about the power of showing up. Man, showing up is so important. I think that a lot of the times we get caught up in our routines, right? Like we get caught up in our day-to-day of what we're doing. We got to get stuff done, specifically, especially around entrepreneurs, right? I'm talking about the entrepreneurial, kind of journey and process. And of course, this can apply in other avenues and aspects, but I'm specifically talking about in entrepreneurship. Sometimes we always get caught up in the work that has to get done. And it's easy to get into a bubble of just working, but we don't realize sometimes that a lot of opportunities and a lot of things that are going to happen is when you get outside. You get outside and you meet people. And I think it's just, for me, it's been a crazy last couple weeks. I mean, things have just, I'm not sure what's going on, but things are shifting in a way that I've seen previously in terms of how we've done stuff and going through different growth stages and different processes and stuff like that. And I feel like we're really entering into this new phase. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about, some things that I've learned along the way and sharing some stuff that I've learned recently. And so basically these last couple of weeks have been crazy. I just got back from Atlanta. That was a surprise trip. And then I got back from New York recently. And so essentially what happened is, we're working with some clients that we're trying to land a deal with and build with. And I got an email basically saying that they were going to be in Atlanta meeting and they wanted to basically make some connections and stuff like that and introductions. And so I've been wanting to get to Atlanta for a while. I have a couple clients out there that I wanted to meet with. So I was like, okay, it works out. I could just kind of batch everything up. And so I ended up booking a last minute trip, 2 days before we went. I got the email. And so I went to Atlanta. And as soon as I got to Atlanta, I've done content in the past, right? I was doing a lot of content, like, from 2013 to or 2014, 2013 to all the way to 2019 when I stepped back and took a break and just really kind of focused on myself and building the business, building myself and all these things. And so, still kind of been posting on social. We've been doing the podcast, been kind of doing content and stuff like that. And so once I got to Atlanta, I started to just kind of look through my followers and see who was out there. And I posted something and saying hey, I'm in Atlanta, would love to connect with folks and set up some meetings. And so I remember I've been following Neo for a while on my page, and we have been following each other. And I don't even know how we came across each other or whatever. And so I remembered, I was like, oh, I think he's in Atlanta. So I just reached out to him randomly. Mind you, it's 5:45 p.m. on a Thursday. And I was just like, yo, are you in Atlanta? I would love to connect if you are. And he was like, look, I'm leaving the country tomorrow, but I'm recording this podcast episode. Can you be here at 7? Do you want to be on the show? And I'm like, got an hour and 20 minutes to kind of get ready and something I wasn't expecting, this opportunity that just popped up. And so I Googled where he was at, and he was only 10 minutes away from where I was staying. And so I was like, oh, this is crazy. And so I went over there. We recorded the podcast episode and just connected. And it was just a really dope conversation that we had, because seeing another successful Black entrepreneur that is doing his thing, and it was no competition, there was no ego, there was just it was just straight love and support, was crazy. It was something that I hadn't really experienced before. Sometimes you get into this bubble of entrepreneurship is a very lonely space, right? It's you don't have a lot of people that can relate to you in the sense of the experience that you go through. And so it was just really dope. After the podcast, he introduced me to a bunch of people, some of his homies and stuff like that. And we just connected and vibed. And he was like, yo, I got this, I'm going to this event in New York for Rashad, one of the founders of Earn Your Leisure's birthday party. You should roll with us. It's on Tuesday. Mind you, this is like Thursday night that we're talking. And so I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, for sure. Like, you know, I'll get back to you. Like, yeah, I might go. But in the back of my head, I'm like, I'm not going to go. My introverted, just kind of whatever self was like, I need to work. I need to kind of stay home and do some things. And so we connected or whatever. The next day he invited me over because they were recording some more podcast episodes and had like a bunch of different entrepreneurs there. And he was like, yo, we're having a brunch. I got a private chef that cooks some brunch. Won't you come over and eat? And I'm going to introduce you to some people. And so we went over there, and it was just such a crazy experience. It was just this room. He cultivated this room of entrepreneurs and people that are doing dope stuff in different industries that are all super successful. And it was the first time that I was like around this community of folks that like thought like me, and went through challenges like me. We're relating on different, ups and downs of how you do stuff, and, trying to think about building, businesses and building legacy and all these different things. And it was just such a crazy experience to be able to sit in this room and have this community. I think one thing that I've been looking for a long time is community, right? Like, how do you build community, and how do you find people that are kind of like on the same page as you? And I think sometimes we don't understand the power of social media, and we don't understand the power of just like, as you're starting to put out content and as you're documenting your journey of building your business, to be able to put it out, and you never know who's watching and who's going to see that. We look at those numbers, right? We look at, we hit 5,000 followers, 10,000, 100,000, whatever it is. And you look at those and you think that they're numbers and they're metrics, which they are, but they're people. Those are individual people. So you just never know out of all those followers who are watching. And sometimes there's a lot of people that are watching you that aren't engaging and liking your stuff, but they're watching your moves. And it's building up a reputation. It's building up a reputation before you even enter the room, right? So what you post on social media, what you post on, what type of content you post is important, because people start to build up a picture and your reputation around that, and your reputation will precede you. And so it was such a crazy experience to just be sitting in this room with all these successful entrepreneurs, in this really, really nice house that, he sets up in terms of for like event spaces and stuff like that. Seeing the podcast studio in person. I mean, they had a real production setup, which is something that I want to do with this podcast. Right now everything is all remote, but the goal is to get in an office and to be able to set it up, to be able to do it in person. So to be able to get a glimpse of how he operated his business and how he operates his space was just super dope and inspiring. And like I said, it was all just love. There was no like ego or competition there. I think sometimes we get into a lot of that, especially in California growing up. There's a lot of, it feels like a lot of competition. When I went to Atlanta, it was a really interesting, culturally, you can tell the difference in Atlanta. And it was just a really crazy experience. And so as I'm sitting there, I was thinking again, in the back of my head, he invited me to this event, and I was already planning in my head that I wasn't going to do it. And so I ended up the next night, we went out to dinner with our clients. I took the clients out to dinner, and we were just talking, vibing. I think building relationships again is so important, right? As you start to think about working with clients, and as you start thinking about like the long-term aspect of building relationships, it's not always work. It's not always asking them what can they do. It's not always trying to take money from them, or it's not trying to always get an account or a sale. Sometimes it's just about building a relationship and talking about life stuff, and so that's what the dinner was. It was just really just vibing, getting to know each other. Business stuff came up, of course, but it wasn't the primary conversation around stuff. I'm in the mindset now of like, if you add enough value and you build good enough relationships with people, opportunities are going to come. And you have to believe that you are going to win regardless, because once you have that mentality of like, I'm going to win regardless of whatever happens, it takes the pressure off of trying to pressure somebody to get a deal, or is trying to close something, or to just get too excited about stuff. You know, having that internal confidence of like, okay, everything is going to work out and be okay is going to allow you to build these authentic relationships and show up in an authentic way. And so we're sitting there talking, and one of the clients was like, so what were you doing out here? And I explained the experience that I had with her, and you know, who I've met and all the stuff. And I mentioned the event on Tuesday, and I was like, but you know, I'm not going to go. And it's crazy because this is the first time we spoke. I mean, we've texted a little bit here and there, or emailed, communicated a little bit, but this is the first time we've really like started to get to know each other. And she was like, God is telling me that you need to go, that if he opens up doors, this is what you've been asking for, and you need to be able to do this. If people ask you to be somewhere, you need to show up, because then it shows them that you value them, and they're giving you access to spaces that normally a lot of people can't get access to. And it was so weird, because it felt like she had full context of kind of what I had been thinking about, what I had been going through, and all this stuff. And it was so weird that this is the first time I met her, and she's saying this stuff. And so she essentially talked me into going to the event. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go. I will go. She was like, all right, good. You better go. I think it's going to be worth it. And she shared some experiences of like how she showed up, you know, when people invited her, and how it was, you know, a lot of success came from it. And she's a big director. I can't talk about the company, but she's a big director at a company, and she is a real player. And she just really shared some experience and stuff from her of like when people invited her somewhere and she showed up. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I had to coordinate all the details and do a last minute trip. I was heading back to the house on Sunday on the West Coast, and then I had to fly all the way back to basically New York on the East Coast on Monday. So it was a lot of traveling back and forth. But I think what I learned during that entire process of just, if I would have never went to Atlanta, if I would have never showed up and had these conversations, none of this stuff would have even happened or transpired, right? Like, opportunities come through people. Opportunities come through being out. Opportunities come through networking. Opportunities come with just showing up. That's literally like 80% of the battle, is just showing up. And so I ended up going to New York. We went to the event, and he introduced me to a bunch of people, a bunch of his boys, a bunch of people that I met at the event. And it was just a crazy experience, because it was then meeting a wider network of people that are all successful entrepreneurs, right? Because I've been in the entertainment worked with a lot of celebrities and stuff like that, and athletes. And so it was always kind of like I was a part of that industry, but it was still something like I don't rap, I'm not in the music industry, and I'm not in an athlete. So it was like I was always this kind of like outsider in this world and in this space. And so to be able to go to this event, and most of these people are successful entrepreneurs that have businesses and real estate development companies and like all this stuff, it was just a very weird experience. And I don't mean like weird in the best sense, right? Like it was such a cool experience to be around kind of your tribe and your people. And I never would have been able to experience that if I didn't show up. And I think that the stuff that you learn being around people that are more successful than you, that are successful in other businesses and other industries, you start picking up on certain things, and you start picking up on their habits, and you start picking up on how they move around and how they operate. And I think it is so important to surround yourself around people that are more successful than you, because it makes you stretch and it makes you think about stuff. So the stuff that I've seen and how they operate and how they manage their kind of space and their time and how they hire a team and how they have stuff were layers that I could add on to what we already have and what we're building. And so it was just, I got so much from the trip. And I think that even from a content standpoint, like I told you before, I stepped away from doing content. And the way that they move around and do content and post stuff, I realized like, damn, if we were connected on social because of the content that I put out, imagine who else is following me that I didn't like, I haven't connected with in real life, and I haven't just connected with. It's only been on social media. And so it just changed my perspective around creating content and around social media and the power of social media. And so if you're building anything, I would highly recommend to start documenting and putting out content and start talking about your philosophy and what you believe in and show what you're doing, because you never know who's watching and who's going to be able to see your video and who you'll be able to connect with. That's going to also lead to multiple opportunities. And so as I was flying back from the event and I was just kind of like reflecting on everything, it just really inspired me to like, okay, we're doing a lot of stuff in our agency and we're doing a lot of stuff from a day-to-day stuff that I think would add a lot of value to people's lives, especially around business, right? And just like how you approach stuff, because I think that being able to see behind the scenes of how stuff is happening, and getting the backstory of how things happen. You know, we always see the end result and the finished product, but being able to see the backstory and like the development of it, I feel like it's so important. And it just, from the conversation that I heard about the videos that I had posted in the past that he saw and was like, oh, this was dope. Like you did some like really cool videos. It just inspired me to do content again. And so I'm very excited to start the process of creating and documenting what we're doing and getting back to my old school videos. So if you guys are new and just started kind of like following and listening, I used to do these just kind of like vlogs, just like really showcasing the behind the scenes, building the business, meeting with the teams, meeting with the clients, the projects that we're working on. And I really enjoyed those videos. Like I really enjoyed making that because it was just a form of art for me. And I feel like it was a way to kind of storytell and create stuff. So I am excited that this week we're officially starting the content creation and documenting our journey. We have a ton of stuff coming up, a ton of different events. I'm going to be going to, I'm taking some of the team to the Warriors game. We've been doing a bunch of arena giveaways and influencer activations. We're meeting with some executives. I'm taking the team out for dinner, the podcast production team for this Doing Everything Different team. So I'm going to record that, kind of introduce the team and show a little context with that. I'm doing a speaking event at a college for, I want to say it's like 100 college students, just about entrepreneurship. I used to speak a lot pre-2019. And so getting back into working with the youth and speaking and kind of doing the mentorship side of things, I'm really excited about. Then I'm headed to South by Southwest. We have a couple of events out there. And then I'm going to be going into Seattle to meet with two of our big clients out there. So I want to show this stuff, and I want to show the backstory of like how we got there, how we built the relationship with Starbucks, how we got into some of these companies, how we were able to go from not knowing the Warriors to now doing, I don't know how, I think we did 4 arena giveaways this year, from 20,000 to 15,000 units each giveaway, with lunch boxes, hats, pins, lapel pins, stuff like that. And so I'm just really excited to take people along the journey with us to be able to do this. And so I said all this to say that the power of showing up, you never know what's going to come from when you just show up. You never know what's going to come from it. It's probably not going to be what you think it is. You think it's going to be one way, but I think that when you do show up, you'll build a connection that leads to another connection that leads to, access to something, or it leads to sparking an idea from a conversation. And so what I'm doing is I'm making it more of a priority now to show up, to show up and to be places and to put myself in positions for opportunity to happen. And I think you can do that from a physical space, going to events and stuff like that. And I think you could do it from a digital space as well by creating content and to be able to document and showcase what you're doing. So being able to balance those two out in this world of digital and physical, spaces, I think is so important. And I'm just really looking forward to the process of this. And I think a lot of this also too stems from this philosophy that I've been thinking about and really been trying to integrate into my life more, is the power of letting go. The power of understanding that we can't control most of the stuff that happens to us in life. The majority of stuff we can't control. We can't control the external stuff that happens. but we can control certain things. We can control getting up and going to the gym. We can control eating healthy. We can control, prioritizing your mental health. You could control, how you show up for people. You could control. There's certain things that you can control, and I'm shifting my focus from the stuff that is out of my control, which I used to try to want to have power over, to just putting all of my energy into those things that I can actually do, and having faith in God, the universe, whatever it is that you believe, that things are going to work itself out. I have an affirmation that says, what's mine is mine. I won't have to do anything but be ready to receive it. What's mine is mine, and I won't have to do anything but be ready to receive it. And I'm really trying to internalize that and realize that, like, whatever's for you, there's nothing in the world that's going to stop it from coming to you. I mean, you can stop it, right? You can stop these good things from happening to you if you get in your own way. But I think that, like, if you are truly trying your best and you are really trying to put in the work and doing your best at whatever it is that you're doing, what's going to be for you is going to be for you. And it's going to find its way to you or back to you, or it's going to get out of your life as well if you don't need it. And I'm just really trying to live by that philosophy and understanding that this is all an internal game. Most of us are trying to control external factors that we have no control over. And really, that's not where the magic happens. The magic happens is when you look at everything as an internal game. And if you look at everything that this is coming from me, and this stems from what I'm doing, and how do I improve myself, that is where the magic happens. And I was listening to this episode from Bob Proctor, and he was talking about how when people want to change their external conditions, it's like standing in front of a mirror and expecting your reflection to change without changing your appearance. And I thought that was so powerful, because I'm like, that's so true. We're always like trying to look externally to have things change when we don't change how we look and how we do stuff. And so if you want something better in your life, if you want to have a different result, you have to do things different. The whole premise of this podcast, right? Doing everything different. I truly believe that. And I think the older that I'm getting and the more experiences that I go through and the more mature I become, I'm really starting to understand that, like, just let it go. Just let it go. Focus on the controllables, and everything else is going to be all right. And have faith that everything is going to be okay. Believing in God, right? Believing in a source, something bigger than you that's guiding this stuff. Everything happens for a reason. I really believe everything happens for a reason. And I think if you just focus on you and not worried about anybody else, just focus on you, you'll be all right. I used to compare myself to people so much, right? Like coming up, I used to just always like, oh, that person is this, oh, that person is that, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. And it's taken a while to work through all that stuff. And I'm still not perfect at that by any means, but I'm way better than I used to be. And I think once I started to realize my internal value and my unique perspective and how I do things is unique, and leaning in on that and trusting that and having confidence in that, it allowed everybody else and what they're doing for me to appreciate that and not look at that as a threat, right? Looking at it as, oh, this is dope. Like, it's dope what you're doing. Like, there's no competition here. Like, I'm doing my thing, and I'm doing my thing in a different way. And I think that just comes with a lot of maturity. It comes with a lot of growth. It comes with a lot of just working on self-confidence and understanding that you are valuable. Your perspective and what you bring to the world is valuable. There's nobody on the planet that ever existed, that's going to exist, that can do whatever you're doing and what you're sent here for like you. So even if there's a million other companies, a million other things in the industry, you are going to approach it differently. Your perspective, your taste, your experience, everything that you've been through, your background, all of it is going to be how you execute on stuff. And so you just got to trust and believe in that. And I think once you do that and you focus on showing up and you focus on putting the work in, and you look inside yourself for like, okay, how can I become better? Your entire world can change, like for real. And yeah, I mean, I hope that's helpful for somebody. I was talking to somebody on Instagram about creating content and being nervous around creating content. And I told her, like, if you just focus on the value, even if it's one person that you're helping and your intentions, your literal intentions are to be able to provide value to someone, even if it's only one person or whatever, and it can help, it kind of takes the nerves away from creating content and doing what you're doing, because you know it's coming from a legitimate, authentic place versus, having ulterior motives around it. And so, yeah, just show up authentically, try to provide value, and control the controllables and let everything else go. And life can become very interesting. It could become very, very, very interesting. So, like I said, hope it's helpful to at least one person. I appreciate you guys for listening. I'm excited to evolve this podcast to interview more people. I'm very, very excited about this content capture and creation. It's going to show a little bit different context of out in the wild and in the world versus just in a studio talking. It's going to actually like show the projects that we're doing and all this stuff. So I think it's going to bring some different context to what we're doing. So hope you guys are well. Hope you guys have a great week, and I will talk to y'all in a minute. Peace.